I'm like literally playing the opening bits of the game is like I'm literally Nathan Drake working his job. Like, this is so dumb.
Oh, no, that sounds good to me. As someone who's been watching a Shenmue Let's Play.
Yeah, Shenmue comes to mind immediately.
I do remember having a great laugh with DJ because we were playing like the opening bits of Uncharted 4 together. And like one of the opening scenes, like after you do this scene at your job, then you're back at your apartment or your house with not Chloe, what's her name?
The girlfriend character, and then you're the Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah,
is that when that comes up?
Yeah, you're playing Crash Bandicoot on PS1, like hanging out in the living room. And then like at one point, I don't know if you're still playing Crash Bandicoot or if you're like she's talking to you or something. And Nathan just starts like drifting off and like looking over at like a painting of like an island or something on the wall. And like in that moment, it's just like zooming in. He's like zoning out. And I just looked over at DJ and I went, treasure. And we just started dying laughing. I don't know why. Just like the timing of it was just so perfect. Oh my God.
Nathan's got one thing on his mind and one thing only.
Hey everybody, welcome to Pursuing Pixels. My name's Kevin Portelli and I'm here tonight with John Hines.
Hey there.
And Randall Nolery.
Hey folks.
And we are back as always to talk about some video games, and we're back for another year to talk about some video games and wrap things up here. I can't believe it's truly the end of the year here. Every time at work, we're always like filling out paperwork and stuff, and I'm filling out the forms. I'm like, December 4th? Okay. All right, here we go. So, yeah, we're recording this, I guess, a little bit before the end of the year here, but as always, we kind of wrap things up with like kind of our top 3 favorites of the year each, and then like some honorable mentions. Then we make a little New Year's resolution at the end for like a game that we're going to try to, play. And this year I'm going to actually commit to finishing it because I have not done that in the past. I've just kind of been like, I'm going to start up a game and check it out. But I'm going to commit to actually finishing a game this year. But yeah, I'm going to get things started. We're just going to go in the same order we've always kind of done things in here, at least for the last few years. And I think I'm still kind of torn between what order I want to do these in. But I do have a top 1 game, so I'm going to do that last. Yeah. And I'm going to do... Okay, I think I have my order, because this one made the cut. This was like a buzzer beater last second. I kind of got 2 buzzer beaters, actually, but this was buzzer beater last second. I had a different game on the top 3 here, actually, and then at the last second, I was like, you know what? I'm going to fire this up and double check and make sure that I don't want to put this on there instead. And I, in fact, did make that last second swap, and I fired up Shogun Showdown. Mm-hmm. This was that roguelike deck builder, kind of like, I don't know, you play as like a samurai. There's a few different characters, I guess, that you can play as. But I just really love, like, I guess my only gripe about the game is I haven't beaten a run yet, and it seems like the runs are pretty long. Like, I guess in a typical roguelike, I'm thinking there's like, you play through like 4, 5, maybe 6 biomes in a run, and I'm like, I'm just keep going. This map is like, where does this end? But in a way, that's pretty cool, and I feel like part of my problem is I keep like, in the run, you can spend these skulls that you get on like these kind of permanent unlocks and like the shops and stuff. But then you can also spend those skulls, and you get those by defeating bosses on the run. So like the last kind of battle of a world or a biome, if you will. But you can like unlock new, they call them tiles, but they're like the cards in the game, if you will. And you can unlock those like after a run when you get back to like the main menu. And I just keep spending all my skulls in like these shops. And then I'm like, okay, I got to make sure I save some of these so that I can like unlock some of these new attacks and these new abilities and stuff like that. But nonetheless, like, I just love the pixel art, love the music. It's actually been quite a while since I last played this game. And I remember I talked about this in kind of gun rounds together, or at least I made some comparisons between the two. I don't know if I talked about them, but I picked together per se, but I picked them up right around the same time on Switch. And they kind of had like really specific control schemes. Like in this game, you're pressing like ZL, ZR to move right and left. And I thought like, it's been a while. It's going to be like maybe frustrating to pick this back up. And it's, but I picked it right back up. It's like nice. The controls almost felt second nature. Like, so they really put a lot of thought and care into the way this plays on a controller, because it very clearly is, was designed with like you just being able to click on the screen and drag things around and pick up the tiles and drag them and drop them and stuff like that. And they really did a great job of porting it over to Switch here. I'm pretty sure you can also play with actually touchscreen controls as well, like right on the Switch. But nonetheless, I just think this game is just so elegantly designed. It's just really great stuff. And the only reason I nudged the other game off the list was because I was like, I love that game. I might even like it more, but I was like, it's a little more arcadey and just like kind of pick up and play. So I'll save that. I'm going to go through my honorable mentions towards the end here after I wrap up my top 3. But the second of my game, I guess the number 2, I'm going to give this is a big time buzzer beater. It was actually just on the most recent Save It for the Cast that just came out. I'm going to give a shout out to DRAINUS. This is a shoot 'em up bullet hell game that I scooped up a physical copy of. I actually ordered it from Japan. It just randomly popped up like in my like recommended items on Amazon, but it was actually from like Amazon in Japan, but they like waived the shipping fee for some reason. So
yeah, that's not usual.
I was like, yeah. So I was like, it would normally be like $18 to ship it. And I was like, okay, the game's $32. I literally am just repeating exactly what I said on the Save It for the Cast, but like it's normally $20 full price. So it's one of those games for the digital download. So I'm like, I don't want to like it's whenever I know there's a physical version, even though I knew it's like, okay, they didn't release it in North America. I'm just kind of like, $20 and then it'll go on sale for like 14 or 12. And I'm like, if it was 10, I'd buy it probably. But
is there a language option for English on the game?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's totally in English. Pretty much any game, like as long as it got actually released in North America, if you get like the import, because I have the Okami Japan import as well.
Same.
But as long as they like released it, once you pop in the cartridge, it just like boots up the North American release essentially.
Oh,
I don't know. Yeah. So yeah,
the days of region locking are beyond us.
At least on Switch. I don't know how it works on other platforms.
Okay. Randall has a different library of games that he buys. So.
Yeah. But
it's always a monster to fight.
But nonetheless, man, I'm so glad I scooped this one up physically. And I didn't really even dig into one of the main mechanics of this game when I talked about it on the Save It for the Cast. So the main kind of core conceit, number one, is just like a side-scrolling, horizontally scrolling bullet hell shooter. I don't know why I had to think about horizontal and vertical there for a second, but like it just like got gorgeous pixel art that's almost like 3D at times, like the way the ships will like kind of tilt in a certain way, or like just some of the cutscenes, I guess, too. But like even just in the gameplay, the way they like just the detail of the pixel art, it's like it almost looks 3D. It's so incredible. And then there's like a little bit of story. I actually thought I beat the game. But like at the end of the game, like I'll give a little bit of story spoilers away. So fair warning, I guess. But you're kind of like fighting against, your sister's like part of the evil empire or whatever. And you're trying to like, you steal a ship, and you're trying to like battle against the evil empire. And your sister's like, you don't want to fight her, but you have to. But then at the end, like her commander takes her out and you're like, no, and now you're like committed to take out the commander. Then your sister comes back at the last second. You're like, wait, she was still alive. And then she has to like kind of like absorb this final attack and dies at the last second. And then like your little sidekick character is like, all right, we're going to go back in time. And then it's essentially kind of like a new game plus, but like you're actually playing through the game again, but trying to like, I'm assuming things are going to slightly change so that your sister can survive in the end, or maybe not. I mean, I guess maybe it still plays out with like a, storyline that doesn't all work out for a happy ending, but nonetheless, like the main like mechanics, it's just like a little bit deeper than like a regular shoot 'em up. I just love how like the health system ties into the different upgrades. Like you basically, as you kill enemies, you collect these gems and then you fill up these energy tanks, and then you can spend those tanks on like buying new weapons. And then you can also unlock new like they're essentially like the slots that you fill those weapons with are also your health. So like if you're at 1 health, you have like your basic like pea shooter. If you're at 2 health, you're at whatever your second weapon is that's equipped. If you're at 3 health, and they just keep stacking too. So you're like shooting all these weapons at once, as long as they're not in the same class. Like if you have 2 missile class weapons or whatever, like it's only going to shoot the strongest one or whatever. Or the furthest one down the chain that you have equipped. But there's a bunch of different classes, so you can have up to like 5 or even 6 weapons. You can even like jailbreak your like health bar and like give yourself even an extra one, or normally it doesn't let you change what the first weapon is, but you can spend like bonus energy tanks and like unlock that one, so you can put a different weapon in that first pea shooter slot. Nice. Like it's just got so much cool like options on that end. And then the other main mechanic is that you can any there's a few projectiles, and then obviously running into enemies or walls and stuff hurt you, but like that you can't run into. But then anything that's like considered what they call a light attack, which is like essentially like a laser or anything that's just kind of like purple and flashing, you can absorb at any time. And then just like once your meter fills up, you release that, and then you launch like a heat-seeking missiles at everything, or heat-seeking lasers or whatever. But it's just constantly that like, almost feels like a little Ikaruga-esque. You're not necessarily switching polarity, but you're just kind of like constantly like moving into enemy fire, moving out of it, moving into it on purpose to charge up. And it's just like, I don't know, just something about the game and like the fact that it adds that little bit of sense of adventure to the formula, as opposed to just being kind of an arcadey shoot 'em up, you know, blowing away a bunch of enemies without that little extra element of story and like reason to be playing, I guess. And just
keeps
the
it from being
scope
run
of
of
it.
the mill. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just the scope of it. And even like the options, like gives you options right off the bat. Like, do you want to play with like this easier mode that like when you run into walls, it's called like a bumper mode or a safety mode, where like essentially like little wheels pop out and you just like start riding on the ground instead of running into the wall and taking damage. So there's just like a lot of really cool touches and a lot of customization and just gorgeous pixel art. The music is absolutely incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, I just really can't recommend this game enough. If you like shoot 'em ups, it's really, really awesome. And then my number one game, without a doubt, it's not a video game, Fire Tower, the board game.
Hell yeah.
Without question. I was like looking through our spreadsheet and I was like, oh, that was the first game that immediately, which again, we always give John the little shout out for keeping that spreadsheet up to date.
Oh, yeah.
With everything that we talk about on the podcast, which I'll put a link to in the episode description here. But yeah, Fire Tower, the board game. I actually got a chance to play this again over at my buddy's house when we had a little get together. But played this for the first time on like a little friend trip that we just like, went out to Ohio, Hocking Hills area. And one of my buddy's brothers, Nathan, who always busts out all the old school video games and all the board games, busted out this game, Fire Tower. And a lot of times with board games that are like a little more in depth and a little more niche, like it can just be a little bit tedious, or even a little bit like by the time you explain the rules to everybody, or somebody reads the instructions, or you watch a YouTube video how to play or whatever, like it's like nobody even wants to play the game anymore, and then you lose the steam. And this game was just like, Nathan explained it to us. It's super simple, and we just picked it up and played it. You know, maybe we got a rule or two wrong here and there along the way, who knows? But like for the most part, it was just like there's no debating crazy rules and no debating like, what does this card mean? And it's just such an elegantly designed game. Again, it's just kind of like a game about like forest fires spreading. Big fire starts out in the middle, and then the wind is blowing in a direction, and then you roll the dice, and each turn, like every person, I can't remember if you roll the dice each turn to change the wind direction or not, but I think you have to actually trigger that event. But nonetheless, you like play a card each turn, and like that can like either put out fire or cause the fire to spread, and you just try to like burn down. It's up to a 4-player game, and you're just trying to like burn down the other player's fire towers while you're trying to protect your own. And it's just, I don't know what else to say about it other than it's just like one of the most elegantly designed, and it's just such a gorgeous looking game. Like it's a really simple like board in and of itself, but it's got like kind of like almost like a watercolory, or I don't know if that's even the right word, but like just a painterly style to it. And then like the little fire gem tokens that you put on the board just like catch the light in a way that just is so appealing to me. The cards are really nice, and it's just like it just lays out a little diagram like, hey, this is what this card does. You can put 3 tokens on 3 tiles in a row, or you have to place them in like a diamond pattern or whatever it is. There's like no second guessing. Like, what does this mean? But it's just such a great game, and I just love playing board games with friends and stuff. And again, being able to pick one up and play it and know that it's so easy, and know that it's pretty easy to teach to new players, and like it's one that's been sitting in my Amazon cart, and I asked for it for Christmas, and just like, okay, I'm definitely adding this game to my collection because I want to be able to do what Nathan did and bring this to a get together and, share that experience with some other people, because it's a really, really awesome game. Yeah, if you like board games, can't recommend it enough. And I really love too the dynamic of like how, because the way the wind shifts throughout the game, you're like, all of a sudden everyone's teaming up on Josh, and then all of a sudden like the wind starts shifting towards me, and then it's like, I thought we were teaming up on Josh, and nope, now everyone's teaming up on me now. And it's just like just the way the tides turn in that game is just so cool. But But yeah, I guess I wanted to give a couple honorable mentions here as well. The game that I kind of nudged off my top 3 list here was Hyper Meteor. And again, I just only really nudged it off because it's just doesn't have enough depth to really, like, I was like, hey, this doesn't really warrant a top 3, but it's just an awesome arcade game. I really got hooked on this one when I picked it up on Switch. It's just like pretty much as simple as it gets. There's just like enemies or asteroids floating around, and there's like a weak point on any of those. And, you know, they're basically two-tone kind of color. It's actually a game that was developed for Playdate, which I didn't know originally. But then they ported it to Switch and I think other platforms as well. But you can just like, you basically just trying to smash as many enemies as you can without taking any damage, or maybe you can take some damage. I can't remember if you die instantly when you get hit or not. I think you get a few lives and whatnot, but just it's a good, really great high score chaser with a really great like pixel art. If you can imagine that like Playdate aesthetic, but in like a few different colors. Cause I really love all the different color palettes and stuff as well. But I also wanted to give a shout out to 20 Minutes Till Dawn. I think that's one of the best takes on like that kind of bullet heaven, vampire survivors genre. I think we all really enjoyed that one. I don't know if it might come up again later on here today or not. But I definitely just really had a good time with that one. And then in the same vein, Nautical Survival is a really great game in that same vein. Which I literally just said the same sentence twice there, but just a really great, in that bullet heaven, vampire survivors. In this game, you just play you can pick between a few different boats, few different characters or captains, and then you can pick between a few different weapons, and you can keep upgrading that ship, keep kind of stacking abilities, stacking upgrades, almost in the way that you can in Shogun Showdown. Like you can really kind of customize things quite a bit. It's not a deck builder or anything like that, but and then I also wanted to give a shout out to, I guess I only played the demo for this game, but that Bakaru demo, I just thought that was one of the most like energetic and awesome 3D platformers I'd played in quite a while. And I did see that they did announce a physical release for that in North America, because I was thinking about maybe I'll import this one from Japan too. But yeah, they did announce not only that it got released here in North America digitally, but yeah, it's getting that physical release as well.
Yes, sir.
And then I have a few other ones jotted down here, but I think the only other one I'm going to mention is UFO 50. It was kind of almost tough to like not put this one on the list, but at the same time, when I was like really thinking about it, I was like, there's not really any like one game in the collection that I'm like, I love this game, and there's a ton that I really, really, really like. But it just didn't like grab me in that way. But I've also probably spent more time playing that game than probably anything else this year, to be honest, other than maybe a few other. I honestly can't think of anything I would have played more than that. I've put about 15 hours into it at this point. So, and it's still something like anytime, like I probably would have played it more if it was on, if I had it on Switch, I'd probably be playing it constantly. But the fact that I have to like have my laptop in a convenient spot to play video games, you know, I pretty much only do it when I think like, hey, let me record a video or something, or let me play a couple Campanella 2 runs or something like that. But yeah, there's one other game I'm actually going to mention, because I mentioned it actually before we started, but Swordship too. That's a game that I picked up on Switch, and just like a really great, I guess kind of like a bullet hell dodge 'em up. I think I said the same thing when I talked about it before, but like you don't really have any, or at least many, means of attacking enemies. You kind of sometimes maybe have the ability to like stun them, but I just really love like the sense of speed, the style's out of control. I just thought this was like such a great, I don't know, twist on the bullet hell genre, I guess, in a different way than like the 20 Minutes Till Dawn is kind of a twist on the bullet hell genre as well. I thought Swordship kind of took it in a different direction, and still feeling like a shoot 'em up, but in a fresh way. I don't know, really cool game. But yeah, that's kind of my list of games that I really enjoyed this year. So why don't we kick it over to John for his batch of goodies?
Yeah. I'm going to go the opposite direction. I'll start with my honorable mentions and then move into my top 3. But I also am separating my honorable mentions into 2 different categories. The first one are games that I replayed, or ones that aren't necessarily ones that I, started this year or came out this year or played for the first time or whatnot. But I replayed Death's Door, and I 100%ed it and did like 100% of the achievements on it. And it really just cemented as like one of my favorite games. Like I think Death's Door is just like a perfect game for me. Like hits every button and every like thing that I love about a video game. And like, it really was a fantastic game to replay. I spent so much time this year playing Lonely Mountains Downhill again.
Yes, I thought about mentioning that too.
I did so much of the, seasons, and I was playing it every single day, and like doing the like new map that was every single day. They have a challenge to do, and like it was really just a great routine and a fun thing to do, and like also cemented in my mind that I just really love that game. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, and I can't wait for the new one, the skiing game that they announced. I cannot wait for that game.
It looks, I'm excited. So excited.
Yeah.
And then last for the replays was it was almost a new one, but I still had played a decent amount of it before this year, which was Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, the first Monster Hunter game I ever played on the Switch when I like first bought a Switch and there weren't a ton of games, and I was like, I'll buy this game that was ported over from the 3DS. And then I was like, this game is inscrutable. I'll never understand how to play this game. And then however many years later, boy oh howdy, have I gone off the deep end of this franchise.
Yeah.
It's just kind of felt good to be like, hey, I bought this game like 6 years ago, and I didn't really put any time into it. And then when I say I didn't put any time into it, I mean I put like 30 or 40 hours into it. But now I've put over 100 and still barely scratched the surface of that game and the franchise in general. There's still just so much to do, and it really was the start of my Monster Hunter journey, which you can see through this entire podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the spreadsheet.
But for the new games that are honorable mentions, they are games that I've either, played a ton this year or have just stuck in my mind. And in terms of played a ton and is just also, I think, a perfect game, it's Balatro. Like I booted it up again before, like I was playing through some of these games before we in preparation for this episode, and I won another run on Balatro, and I was good God, this is just such a great crafted game, balanced game. I won in a way that I had never done before. It was a high card run on the yellow deck, so I was buying a lot of things right at the beginning and learning a lot of new card synergies and strategies that I had never used before, and it's just so good. It's just every part of that game is just so good.
It is. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Nice. I thought that was a lock for one of your top 3, so I'm curious to...
That was the one I bumped down at the very last minute, and that's only because I just really want to talk more in depth about another title. But my last honorable mention is more a game that I just basically haven't stopped thinking about since I kind of bring it up a lot on the podcast, but I don't know if it necessarily is just it kind of changed how I think games can be, or at least a specific type of game can be. And that's Paratopic from Arbitrary Metric. And the way that it sets scenes and the way that you move through the game and don't necessarily need to achieve things for the game itself to move forward. It does things in a way that I think a lot of games that try to play more into the film aspect of video games don't accomplish as well. And I think that it does it in a very unique way of you inhabiting a scene and having that scene play out in front of you and you not necessarily being in control of it, as opposed to the typical you're walking through a corridor and a scene is playing as you're walking through. I think it does a lot more interesting things that can only be done in a video game. And I just constantly find myself thinking back as God, Paratopic is such a good game.
Yeah, you've even referenced it a few times while you've talked about other games on the podcast. So yeah.
It's just it's stuck in my craw ever since I played it, and I can't recommend it enough. But moving on to my actual game of the years, and this is the year that I think it's been the most even out of any year. I think other years I've had a very clear, like, oh, this is the one that I played the most or like was my favorite. But these all were so different and did such different things for me that I really can't like rank them in any order that makes sense. And so first one, which is the one that edged out of my honorable mentions and into the top 3, it's Hexle by PUNKCAKE Delicio. Nice. The hexadecimal Sudoku. Like, that's all it is. It's just Sudoku with 16 bits. And boy, howdy, I just think it's a perfect puzzle game. Like, there's nothing else to it. It's just one of the most elegantly crafted puzzle games that like I constantly just think about. Is like, this is such like an intelligently determined, like, how do you figure out the rule sets of like making a new Sudoku or a new Picross? Or like, how do you do that in a way that is legible and like not overly complicated, right? And like is infinitely repeatable, because you can play this game forever. It randomly generates a new one every single time, and that's all it is. It says what it does on the tin, and it's perfect. I think it's just a flawless game.
Heck yeah.
Then my other 2 games are a little bit more in depth than that. Disco Elysium, I started playing it, and I've still only made it past the first day just because there's so much to do. It is the most comprehensive or intensive RPG that uses dialogue trees and different skill sets in such an original way, in such an interesting way, and in a very specifically well-told political story of like a mystery that is just so fascinating. And like it is a marvel to just play it and like see all of the pieces just clicking so seamlessly together and at such a high level. Like, I really can't recommend Disco Elysium enough.
Sheesh.
And then,
nice. Was that your resolution game for this?
That was my resolution game.
Nice, and nice. I always love when those carry over.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a like, you know, I don't want to fuck up this file, so I still want to. I've got a little bit of paralysis of like, I still want to play optimally, or like I want to play well. I can't just trash this run, even though I totally could. Like, there's nothing preventing me from playing the game again.
No, I know what you mean about that feeling, though.
But the other game, which I don't know, maybe this is my top of all of them, but Outer Wilds, which is nice. Just I played it a little bit more like right before we hopped on, and it just again is so masterfully crafted, and like every part of it fits into it so well. And there's still so much of it that I'm learning and like figuring out. It's space flight is not like riding a bicycle. I'm still crashing a lot after having set it down for a couple months, but picking it back up and like picking a planet to fly to, and then trying to figure out what the hell is going on there and what little pieces I can put together and maybe move on to the next part. Like, it's incredible. Like, it is such a singular puzzle in a way that, like, all 3 of these games are kind of so well made, and so like I think, I don't know, for me, like the pinnacle of their genre. For me, like, this is exactly what I wanted from a game, and it like stimulates me in a way that no other game has. And I can't recommend playing all of these as more than I possibly could.
Dang.
Heck yeah. I like how puzzle heavy that is, and I also like that you're carrying that PUNKCAKE torch this year for me.
They keep coming out with good games.
Yeah, I had a sock pop and a PUNKCAKE like honorable mention, but I was like, I've given them enough praise. I don't need to throw them into the mix. So
I just bought like 4 more sock pop games like on the Steam sale.
Nice.
Heck yeah. But yeah, why don't we kick it over to Randall to wrap it up here with his favorites of the year?
Yes. Okay. I deliberated this for real minutes to come up with this list.
Same here.
I didn't realize I didn't have this finished, but I did finish it. Giving me high school flashbacks of finishing the assignment right before you turn it in.
I work better under pressure, man. I work better under pressure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, convinced myself of that for a while. Let's do honorable mentions first, and nice. We'll go from least honorable to most. Diablo 4 is a game they keep updating. It is but it makes sense. It is a game of a service of sort. It is a live game of a sort. This, for as many times as I brought it up, probably could have or should have been ranked, but it's also had its issues with bugs and otherwise along the way where it's like, this is good. We tried 2 nights in a row and ran into different broken issues. So let's, let's chill for like a week or two and see what the inevitable patch or 2 brings. But most of the time it is just a very safe, vibrant go-to at the end of the day, as is always the theme with a lot of my games. Something I can play with my wife, and we both have a good time watching numbers go up and occasionally changing different outfits or stat points, etc. And you get a new thing that opens up a whole different set of skill tree stat points, and isn't that fun? And rinse and repeat.
Do you each just have one character you use, or do you have multiple profiles that you cycle between?
Ooh, so I have done the multiple profiles in a previous age. I did that in Diablo 3, especially kind of like now there's, because there's an expansion that came out that added a new character class. And, at that point I flipped over and did Necromancer or whatever, which I know technically for the series was not a new class, but it was to Diablo 3 at the time with that expansion. Similarly, this time there's like a Spirit Bearer, I want to say, or something like that, class that you got with this expansion that just released within the last couple of months. And they've been pushing it a lot to want people to create that character, because a lot of the new area and the new dungeons are all based around this new character class, more or less. But it's cool that there's a new area regardless, because it's like, hey, here's a whole new section for us to go collect stuff in. But no, I've been tempted to make the new character, but I'm like, I just don't have enough time to go that sicko at this point. I need to
start over.
My guy that turns into bears and wolves and stuff, whatever that class is called. I've been playing it for hours. I should know that. Elevator Action Returns. I went back and forth between this and Ninja Jaja Maru, both of which I talked on the same episode about, and have very similar side-scrolling arcadey features to them. But Elevator Action Returns won out, and it's like really like under the surface complexity. It's got like a puzzle aspect to it in your solving of a given screen that you're playing in with your side-scrolling character, and having to get to this certain, red door or whatever before the alarm starts going off to that's ultimately your mission. It's not to kill all the guys. It's to get this door fixed to the proper color, and maybe there's some other blue doors that'll give you items or weapons or whatever else, and ultimately you're scrolling to get to the next section. But first you've got to clear that door, and often there'll be obstacles in your way, and often you're waiting on the elevator to come back down to your stage area, because even jumping can be a bit perilous, and all the while there's dogs and enemies and rolling explosive barrels coming at you, and you've got to kind of get adept at the very specific controls in this game, which do have a learning curve, but once you have said learning curve, very satisfying and rewarding to play. Might also have ranked, if not for the obtuseness of the emulator layer on Xbox to play this version, the Returns S Tribute or whatever it is. I will buy this game on Sega Saturn one day. I'm very impressed with this game.
No, you definitely. I remember when you talked about this one on the whatever regular episode. You definitely sold me on this one. I want to pick this up eventually too.
Great sprite art, great like end of like area sprite art, like drawings. Great 2-player action. A lot of personality in that kind of that just mid 90s arcade sort of way. It's great. Really, really like that game. And then finally, the last game that didn't make the cut, but I him-hawed on for minutes. It was 20 minutes till dawn. Man, y'all talked this game up, and I bought it and didn't play it because that's what I do with video games. And then much later, I decided to actually play it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is great. I love any roguelike, actiony roguelike is going to probably grab me, and this one really grabs me. And you know, I think like both of y'all, have any of us played Vampire Survivors or any of the other?
I have.
I have only because it
was on Game Pass, so I fired it up and checked it out, and it was like, you know, fun enough. But it didn't grab me as much as some of these other, like, you know, twists on that game have.
Right. Yeah, and I guess, I mean, this is the only one I've played of that, but it super grabbed me. I loved that on Switch. Man, that was so easy to pick up and play and just blow through all the unlocks. It just, what a satisfying loop. And then just you know, unlocking the relics and stuff like that in between the runs. But even if that didn't have that and it was just unlocking characters and weapons, that would have been satisfying enough to me to keep playing, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought there was maybe even a chance we would all three mention that game because I felt like we were just really all latched onto that one.
It was close. It was in consideration, but
that's fair. Yeah. I definitely played less games in general this year. I'll say that much too.
Me too.
That informed my list pretty tremendously. That
I think you played the most 20 minutes till dawn out of all of us. I think you unlocked everything compared to Kevin and me, who were like, we unlocked like 2 characters.
Half the stuff, yeah.
I just dive so super deep on very certain games that way. It just becomes the default that way.
When your time's limited, man, when you find that right game and it just clicks, it's just like, this is my game. Yeah. It's my game right now.
And on Switch, just pick it up. I'm going, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's another game that unfortunately I can't even mention yet, and I'll pretend it's a 2025 game that is happening with. All right. Top 3. We'll go 3-1. East Book 1 and 2.
That's nice. Another carryover.
Yes, carryover in the Resolution game. You know, that hit that bucket too.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not a perfect experience. It gets very clunky. It's very 1989, I think, is when the originally came out.
Oh,
wow. Yeah, like the earliest of, you know, CD enhanced gaming technology we're talking about here. But it's just so, I don't know. It's just like a fragile little egg. It's just so like it's so nice. Like, I don't know, it's just like so innocent, I guess. Like, you know, it's one of those experiences. It's just not jaded, it's not cynical. It's just like, it's a cute little thing, and it's very genuine, and like I just can like swim in that like PC Engine TurboGrafx aesthetic all day. I just love that so much, and that is that to a T. You know, didn't make it through 2 by any stretch, and 1 had its own awful flaws, really. But I just, in general, if I'm like taking a step back, you know, it still hit the mark enough for me to talk about it here.
Nice.
Is 1 arguably like the first action RPG ever?
That's a good question.
Because like,
what do you call Zelda?
Like walking, but you're just like walking into enemies.
Yeah,
that's like,
and getting experience points, which Zelda didn't do. At least not the first Zelda.
It's definitely like more primitive than Zelda in some ways, but like
but
RPG.
also more involved, like with the like leveling system and stuff. Like it's a game changer.
Kind of a hybrid. It's like a hybrid
genre. Yeah.
There's certainly more story in Ys than there is in Zelda, and the experience level stuff didn't come into play in Zelda until 2, and even that was pretty light touch, I would say.
And not great.
And another game with its own warts of its own time, but also very interesting game, I would say. I prefer this one, and if I'm going to play a side scroller that's of those, I would probably rather play Ys 3, which is pretty worth playing, I also think.
Okay, nice.
Falcom, good stuff. SNK versus Capcom Card Fighters Clash. You knew this was coming. Capcom edition.
Yep.
I talked about this like 8,000 times. It's another game that I just fell into a trap, and just it was all I did for a while. And like, if I'm gonna it's the only video game I really played that wasn't NBA, and I refused to talk about NBA on any of the podcasts this year, so I couldn't mention it here besides right now. And it, I got really put the hours in on that Analog Pocket, although I definitely jacked up the D-pad doing too many like furious full circles, playing playing Match of the Millennium,
stress testing that circle pad.
And this $250 portable device, that was a smart move. But Card Fighters Clash is just, man, it's so good. Like, in a world before we got Pokemon trading card game Pocket, it was like this deck, kind of sort of like, deck building card fighter thing. Well, it is a deck builder. And just like having all the Capcom and SNK characters of that kind of, late 90s time where you're still getting... It's such a beautiful, enhanced, sprite-based 8-bit experience, but informed by a lot of better game design, and that's such a unique thing. Like, you weren't getting a lot of that besides the Game Boy Color stuff. But even by that point, it seemed like Nintendo already knew that Game Boy Advance was on the horizon, when we were getting some of these things. So that stuff was... already losing steam. You had a good 2-year window basically with Game Boy Color as like a primary platform to get anywhere close to these sort of like 8-bit, but late 90s, very late 90s into early 2000s. So man, I love the whole Neo Geo Pocket Color platform, but this game is just totally brilliant. Like a lot of people have said, it's like the system seller for it. I'm glad it came out on Switch and other platforms, so it's still accessible. I still will play the SNK version, even though I don't have a way of linking the platforms together at some point yet. Even though I don't know like hardly any of the SNK characters comparatively, besides Metal Slug characters sometimes, and some of the King of Fighters characters barely.
Yeah, like I recognize them, but I don't really know them.
Yes, mostly from like crossover games like this one, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
And that leaves a Balatro.
I knew it. I almost wrote it down before you said it, but...
Yet another game that I just obsessively picked up and played for a very long time, and I unlocked most anything and everything I could, and I knew I was going to talk about it on this podcast. It was the only prep I did do, as I booted Balatro back up, and I was like, all right, Balatro. And oh no, Balatro is still brilliant. Let me try to beat this like 20th challenge where I get no jokers. Oh, God. No goddamn chance past like the third ante. Is that? I still don't. Yeah,
that's still unbelievable that you got that far.
Yeah, I kind of forgot that you did everything but that challenge.
Yeah, I tried many times. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Do people need to know what Balatro is by now? It was kind
Probably
of one
not.
of the games of this whole year, I feel like.
Yeah, across the board for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. God, just a brilliant design across the board, and a perfect marriage with a portable platform. And I know it came out on mobile too. Of course, I didn't put that devil on my phone, but it is there. It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It'd be a little tiny on a phone, but like on an iPad, that would feel nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say iPad is, I think, the better, or any tablet device would be better than a phone. Because
it even felt a little, because I did try like just messing around with the touchscreen controls on Switch, and like it works, but like it is even that's like, okay, these cards are kind of small, and obviously a phone would be even smaller.
Sure, especially if you got one where it's like your hand is like a lot bigger now. And,
right.
Yeah, I started getting in my last run, I got whatever Joker duplicates if you play the one card in
to the right.
And since I was doing a high card, I just kept duplicating this. I had like 12 of the same card, and it was great. God, what a good game. What a great way to break poker.
That's a great way to put it, actually.
Yeah, and like I said before, I'm not a poker guy. I'm not a gambling guy, just period. And so I'm just
that's why getting a hand that's 5 of a kind is ingenious.
Yeah.
Well, that and turning like the gambling into purely like a risk reward, system instead of like putting your real money on the line. It's just like it makes it just like, do I want to take this chance? Okay, I got nothing to lose, so let's just see if this game will dish out that crazy hand that I'm hoping I get.
Yep.
This game didn't quite grab me like it did with you guys, but I still like really enjoyed my time with it, and very much like can see myself coming back to it again. At some point in time for sure.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing quite like it, I think, and it looks like it's still being updated, or at least it was through 2024.
Nice.
And that's that. Big respect to that too, and just like I said, perfect marriage on Switch to have a game like that. Holy moly! That song is just, I've heard I don't know how many times that one song.
In so many great slow down or filtered ways when you're, picking a tarot deck or a spectral deck or
I can't remember what it was, but I was listening to a podcast the other day, and there was some song that came on like the in between like interlude music, and it like there was some instrumentation that I was like, is this the Balatro? The same composer? Like it reminded me so much of it. I doubt it, but just something about the instrumentation. It was cracking me up.
Play Balatro.
Yes.
Heck yeah. Well, why don't we snake things back around? I think we're just going to kick it right back to to Randall here and do the resolution games. We're going to pick a game, like I said at the top, to either play. I think we always try to play all the way through them. At least you guys seem to. I always like kind of half-ass it and barely boot it up, but
we put time into them. We play them.
Yeah, this was like my most respectable year where I like booted up Return to the Obra Dinn, before November. So
yeah,
I'll try to be a little better. Try to be a little better this year. But yeah, Randall, what are you planning on trying to chip away at this year?
Yeah, so like we talked about before, I could mention my sicko shit like Calibri or some other random like Japanese PC Engine game that sold like 700 copies or whatever. But like instead, I am gonna go. John planted the seed, and it was the right idea because this is something I had thought about earlier in the year too, and it's Yakuza 0.
Yes.
Nice. It's Yakuza 0. I'm gonna play it on Xbox. It's on Game Pass. There's no reason
perfect because I need that little nudge too. Like if you're playing it, I'll play it with you.
100%. It's Yakuza 0. I will. That'll be the game. It'll be my end of the night game. There's enough I feel like there's enough story and goofy there that that Tina will probably like find it relatively entertaining too. So it's got that going for it. And it does seem like the internet has decided that that's the best place to start.
Yes.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah, and I know that they like Shenmue before it hide some Sega arcade goodies in there, and that those are nice little morsels for me in particular in my gaming habits. So I'm excited from that perspective too.
Hell yes.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm excited to also have that nudge to dive in because I've booted up like one or two of the Yakuza games. Same thing, like because it was on Game Pass and checked it out real quick, but never have really given any of those games a fair shake.
I have not played them at all, really.
Nice.
So yeah,
I've watched the first two as all of the cutscenes in a row, and they're great. They're the best story in any video game I've ever seen, but I need to play more of them.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, how about you, John?
Yeah, for me, I have been inspired by Randall to dig deep and to go into maybe not the more mainstream titles or even titles that I've planned on playing, but I'm going into a game that has been in my periphery for decades at this point, and that is Umineko When They Cry, which is a visual novel murder mystery series that I have been vaguely aware of. Like being on the internet in the circles that I run in, and it's a visual novel series, and it's a murder mystery, and that is the extent of my knowledge of it, other than it's supposed to be very good, and I will see if that's true.
Ace Attorney-esque to some degree, or
I have no idea.
Wowie. Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
So you're just purely going in based on like good hearsay,
100%.
Okay.
That's cool.
Nice. That is kind of fun to go into something like totally fresh or blind like that.
Mm-hmm.
On PC? I'm trying to even see
have
platforms
it on Steam.
here. Nice.
And I had a little bit of panicked Googling before we started where I was like, hang on, do I need to play Higurushi When They Cry before? Because there are 4 of those games before.
Oh, man.
Gotta play the whole series, man.
Naturally.
But according to random Reddit users, I can just play Umineko, so I will.
Nice.
Nice. Well, for my resolution here, I was going to leave it up to you guys because I was really torn between two, or I was even tempted to like just flip a coin, but I think I just made my mind up on the spot here between the two. I'll mention what the other one was going to be after the fact, I guess, but I'm going to commit to so I've played both of these games a tiny bit. I guess the other one that I'm not going to pick a little bit more than the other, but I am going to commit to beating Uncharted 4 A Thief's End. I was looking at my games the other day and I was like, you know what? Uncharted 1 through 3 are like 3 of my favorite gaming experiences ever. And I just kind of I started playing the opening bits of Uncharted 4 and it was just kind of long and drawn out.
Really?
He's got a brother, okay. And I was just like, I was getting kind of bored, but I was like, you know what? Maybe if I can just slog through that opening bit, because people do like that game. And I'm just going to give it a fair shake because I really...
Randall's face through this entire thing has just been incredible.
I know, you're making me second guess. Here.
There's still time to change your mind.
But Uncharted 2 and 3 in particular, Uncharted 1 was a great like opener to the series, but 2 and 3 were just so good. And I was like, I kind of want to go on just like an adventure like that, like a AAA adventure, if you will.
I hear that.
And to cap off a story that you're familiar with characters, that's nice.
Yeah. And the one that I was torn between was also, and same thing, was just because I was like, I played it on GameCube, never really have gotten around to playing it in earnest, though, is Metroid Prime Remastered. I was like, I just need to like give myself that nudge. And maybe I'll even commit to playing both, but I'm only going to throw Uncharted 4 as my actual resolution game. And I'm actually going to beat it. And I might even try to stream it if I get around to it. But
that's your choice. You can play whatever video game you like, Kevin.
If you decide to play Metroid Prime, I'll gladly replay it.
I definitely want to.
Honestly,
I definitely want to play that for sure.
I would gladly pick it back up because I just like a month or two ago, I'm like, why did I stop playing that game? Like, I want to pick that game back up, put that cartridge back in. What a game, that Metroid Prime.
I'll replay the entire Metroid Prime series.
Gotta get ready for it before 4 comes out. Yeah.
Honestly, though, I would be very curious about you playing Uncharted 4 now because I had the exact same experience with Uncharted 4, and part of it was like my PS4 Pro was just pissing me off. It just sounded like the loudest airplane / vacuum, and I just was done with it. So maybe that played into it too. But I just same deal. Like I had a hard time getting into the beginning of that game.
Yeah, I was just like, who is this brother? Now we're like, I remember just doing this like museum heist scene, and I was like, fuck this game, man.
Yeah.
But like, because the other games just got going so fast, it was like there was no dilly-dallying. You just like picked up the game, and all of a sudden you're like, you play a little tutorial, and next thing you know, the game is just going. And like this game was just like, okay, we got to set the stage.
Of Uncharted 4 though?
Not a 4, but me and DJ used to play Uncharted 3 multiplayer, and Steve all the time.
I remember you talking.
I couldn't remember like which one was the one that like I would come over to your apartment and like.
Yeah, we played that like incessantly. It wasn't even that good, but it was just like addictive. We just like got hooked on it. But yeah, I'm kind of excited. I'm excited to see if my PS4 still can read discs, because last time I tried playing Everybody's Golf, I had to like give it that fist pound on top to get the disc to start spinning. So I guess Metroid Prime will be my backup plan if the PS4 is out of commission. But
fair.
But
that's fair.
But yeah, I think we got another year in the books here, guys. I can't believe. I guess we're, like I said, a little bit before the end of the year here as we're recording this, but. Yeah, I can't believe it's another year on the books. About to be 2025 here in a little bit. But anything else you guys want to add before we wrap things up for the end of the year here?
No, just see you next year.
Yeah, works for me.
Heck yeah. Nice. Well, yeah, as always, you can find us on the internet at pursuingpixels.com, pretty much anywhere else on the internet. And yeah, until next week and until next year, we'll catch you then, and take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.